Today we're planning and painting a winter floral bouquet with digital gouache and adding hand lettering for a finishing touch. The color palette for this project is free as always. Just tap on the link in the video description and you can download and install it. I'm going to start by creating a brand new canvas. I've listed my specs on screen. And let's begin. Okay, I've got my brand new canvas, and the first thing we're going to do is plan out our bouquet. So I'm going to be using two different brush sets for this project. The first brush set is my bouquet maker brush set, and there are a bunch of different categories within that set. So it's a massive set of over 150 brushes, but it'll allow us to plan out our bouquet. As an alternative, you could definitely trace an existing bouquet to use as your template, but this kit will enable you to create custom bouquets now and in the future. And then the second brush set is my Gouache Lovers brush set. It's a very painterly brush set that will give you those beautiful strokes and behave similar to gouache if you enjoy that aesthetic. If not, then you can use solid color as an alternative. I've got my bouquet maker right here, and it's split into 5 different categories. So I've got my composition category selected. You can see there's a bunch of composition brushes that you can choose from, which can help you plan out your bouquet. So I'm going to grab composition number 12. I'm going to make sure that my color is black and then just stamp it in with my finger to guarantee full opacity. I'm going to position it on my canvas, and I'm going to keep it fairly large so I can use this for other projects in the future if I'd like. Next, I'm going to reduce the opacity of it, and I'm just going to label this one outline. Now we can start putting in our different elements. So you can tell already where the foliage is on this composition, and these circles represent where my florals are going to be. I'm going to create a brand new layer. My color is still black, and now I'm going to head into the Flat Hero. So these are all flowers that would command a lot of attention within a bouquet, and then your supporting florals are those that are maybe a little less interesting. They're there to support the hero, the stars of our show. So I'm going to choose 3 hero flowers for this, but you could definitely choose 1 hero and 2 supporting if you'd like. Totally up to you. So for my main hero floral, I'm going to use a rose. So my roses are towards the bottom of the hero category. And the rose I'm going to use is one of the more complex ones. So it's hero number 39. So I'm going to select that and stamp it in and then position it. You can enlarge it. This isn't going to be part of our final artwork, the actual outline of it. So you can move and manipulate it without worrying about the quality degrading because it's not going to be a part of that final piece. That works for that. Now I'm going to create a brand new layer and find my next flower, which is going to be hero number 43. I'm going to tuck this one right into there. So I'm going to stamp it in. Let me make it a little bit bigger. Stamp it in. Rotate it, and I'm just going to tuck it behind this corner of the rose so it's a little less interesting than the rose, so it's kind of supporting in this sense. And I want to remove the overlap that's happening, but things are starting to get a little confusing now that I've got 3 elements here. So I'm going to temporarily turn off my outline layer, and the secondary flower right here, I'm going to reduce the opacity so I can see where the overlap is happening of this specific flower. And I like using layer masking for this. If you're not familiar with layer masking, I will leave a link on screen and in the video description for my free Procreate for Beginners class that goes over everything that you could possibly need to know about layer masking. You could also use the eraser tool as an alternative, but I recommend using a layer mask. And in order to use a layer mask, we need to select a brush for the mask. So I'm going to come into Flat Extras where the painting brushes are within this set. I'm going to choose the edgy ink brush up at the top and just paint out using black as my color because this is a mask, and hide these portions. And I like using a layer mask because if I choose to rotate this or adjust it or change it later on, I haven't permanently removed this part of the flower. I can always bring it back if I need to. I'm going to increase the opacity back up now, turn on my outline layer, and now we're going to select the flower that's going to sit right here. So I know that this flower is going to be behind both my other flowers, so I can just tap on my outline layer, create a brand new layer right above it, head back into my Flat Hero category, and for this one I'm going to choose hero number 7 and stamp that in. I'm going to reflect it, so flip it horizontally, and I'll just tuck it in up here and maybe rotate it a little bit. So that feels good. I'm going to do the exact same thing that I did before as far as masking goes. So I'm going to turn off the outline. I'm going to reduce the opacity so I can find where it is. Tap on the layer thumbnail and choose mask. Switch my brush to the edgy ink brush and paint out these overlaps so I can get an idea of what my arrangement's going to look like before I do all the hard work of painting the colors in. Now I can increase the opacity all the way up, and I've got this arrangement complete. If I turn on my outline layer, you can see we've got foliage right here, and this brush set did come with a lot of flat filler elements, which is where you'll find your foliage and any type of bouquet filler that you may want to fill in the gaps or just create a sense of fullness within your bouquet. So there's a lot to choose from here. You could definitely follow along using these stamps by finding similar stamps to what you see here, but because there's quite a bit of foliage here and I like how that arrangement looks, I'm actually just going to paint in this foliage right on top of my stamp. So I'm going to create a brand new layer right above the outline layer. I'm going to switch my brush to, within the flat extras, the edgy ink brush. The size of my brush is right about 10%, and I'm just going to paint in this foliage and work it around the stamps that I added in right here. So drawing this outline is just going to give you a roadmap to follow when we begin painting all of this in with our gouache. So you'll know exactly what to put where and how to layer things. This layer, because it's a guide layer, does not need to be perfect. So don't feel any pressure whatsoever to get all of your lines perfect or connecting or closed paths. You don't need to worry about any of that here. Now that I have my foliage complete, let's turn off the outline layer and see how it looks, see if we've got any other gaps we need to fill. I think I can add, this is kind of like a silver dollar eucalyptus. So down here, I think I can add an extra leaf right here because this was feeling kind of sparse. So just to fill that in a little bit, make it more full. So this is the structure for my bouquet. So now all we have to do is start painting it in. And I'm going to group everything that we've done. So this is all of our line work. I can group that and then toggle it up, create a brand new layer right above it, and now we're just going to tackle each element individually and paint it in. And this process actually goes a lot faster than it may seem because we're using our gouache brushes. So I have this brand new layer. I'm going to tackle the rose first. So the colors we'll be using are all the reds right here. And I'm going to head into my Gouache Lovers brush set and grab the streaky semi-transparent brush. This does have a little transparency to it and some subtle paint streaks within it. The other thing you need to know about this brush is, let me grab one of these red colors. Every time you draw a stroke, the color is going to change just slightly to mimic the different shades that you'll get as the light hits it, as if it were real paint. So just keep that in mind. Every time you pick up your stylus, you're going to get a slightly different shade. So if you want one of these shapes that you're filling in to be entirely one color, make sure you don't pick up your stylus midway unless that's the look you're going for. So the way that I like to work with these when I'm deciding where the color is going to go, you can do it several different ways. First of all, you can do whatever you want because it's your artwork, so you can choose what petals are which colors. You can also base it off of a reference image. If you have a rose and you want to mimic where the darks are and where the lights are of the rose, you can invent a made-up light source here and decide which ones are just going to be brighter naturally, which is what I usually do, and you just try and be as consistent as you can from there. So I'll show you which petals I'm choosing for which colors. You can either work from dark to light or light to dark here. It doesn't really matter. For the rose, I'm going to be working from dark to light. So I'm going to grab the darkest color red right here. It's the fourth one on the bottom row. And I'm going to paint this one my dark red because it's behind other petals, so it'll naturally get some extra shadows. I'm going to make this one a darker one. Since this is the middle of the rose where all the petals are kind of converging and folding up, the very center will be pretty dark. This part will be pretty dark. Any areas that are kind of tucked between other areas where I would imagine not much light's going to get in, those are the areas that I'm defining with this color. And I have 4 different shades right here, so just keep that in mind. However many shades you want to use, you just want to make sure you're leaving enough room so they all get accounted for. So I think that's pretty good with the darkest ones. I can add these ones in too. I'm going to create a brand new layer right above that, grab the next color. So I'm progressively getting lighter here. So I'm still working in shadow quite a bit. So again, just defining these darker areas. On to the next color, create a brand new layer, grab the second to the last one on the second row, Okay, last one, create a brand new layer, grab the lightest pinkish red color, and paint in these areas that are more like highlights. Okay, if we turn off our outline, we can preview this. So you can notice right now we've got several gaps where the different colors meet. So there's a really easy way to fix this. You can either paint in all these areas or just add a color block behind it. And I typically go with the color block option. So all I'll do is come to the very bottom of my layers, create a brand new layer. So this is beneath all of my rose painting layers. And then I'll grab the second darkest color, and I'll just paint this in. And you'll notice it begins appearing because this brush does have some transparency to it. If you don't go all the way to the edge, you're gonna see lines. So I try and get as close to the edge as I can here. We've got our rose complete, so I'm going to group all these layers together. Label this one rose, turn on my outline, create a brand new layer right above it. And I'm going to work on this one. I'm going to turn off the rose while I work on it. That way I can see things better. And obviously everything I paint beneath the rose is going to appear behind it. So I don't have to worry about going too far into the rose because the rose will be covering it. So for this one, I'm going to be using colors right at the end here. So it's the last 3 colors. I'm going to grab the darkest one first, and I'm going to paint that selection of petals for this one this time. But please feel free to change up which colors you want to do. These are just the ones that I chose. If you'd like to learn more about painting digital gouache in Procreate, I have an entire course called Gouache Botanicals in Procreate. You'll learn how to use all the different gouache brushes and create a bunch of really fun botanical projects. So I'll leave a link on screen and in the video description to that course. We're going to create a brand new layer, grab the next lightest color, and this one will be right here. All right, and then the last one, I'm actually going to put the last one behind the layer that I just drew because this petal is behind these other 2 petals. So I'm going to create a brand new layer right between these 2 and grab the lightest color and paint that in. And then we have to add in the stamen right here, but first let's check where our gaps are so we can take care of that. I'm going to turn off the outline, and I only have a few. So create a brand new layer at the very bottom, grab the mid-tone color, and just paint in these ones individually instead of color blocking the entire thing. Now I'm going to turn on my outline and turn off everything else that I've done so I can see my stamen. Create a brand new layer up at the very top and grab this first orange color on the second row, and I'm going to switch my brush to the liner brush. It's got a nice circle when you either stamp it or if you want to make it a little bit larger. It makes drawing these really fast and easy. And then I'll just reduce the size to connect them down, these filaments. All right, let's turn off the outline and see if I need to add any extras. Turn on the rest. That's all set. We can group these together. Let's turn on our rose and we can get an idea of how this is coming together. We're going to do our third flower now. You can turn off the previous 2, create a brand new layer right above the outline, and for this one we're going to use these oranges, so there's 3 of them. I'm going to switch my brush back to the streaky semi-transparent brush, and I'm going to grab the darkest orange right here in the middle, and I'll paint in this petal right here. It's pretty large. And I'm keeping my stylus on the screen the whole time. I'm not lifting up. I don't want any different colored streaks, and I'm coming straight through to the other side. And then I also had a little bit that came behind this flower, so I'm going to add that in. Create a brand new layer. I'm going to switch to the mid-tone color, and I'll paint this petal in the front. And then for that last petal, create a brand new layer and paint it the lightest color. All right, let's turn off the outline, check for gaps, create a brand new layer and grab the mid-tone color to fill in any gaps. Turn on the outline, turn off the painted layers, create a brand new layer up at the very top, and then grab the darkest red color and switch back to the liner brush. And I'm just going to loosely follow this one because this one doesn't have much detail and this one has a lot of detail. I want it to be similar to this one, so I'm going to make my anthers, which are the circles here. I'm going to make them similar in size to this one than with this one. So I'm going to use a little bit of creative freedom here and just make these a little larger. And then reduce the size of my brush and connect them down. Okay, let's turn on our flowers and see how that looks. I need to group these together, and it looks like I missed a small portion, so I'm just going to paint that in the same dark color here. Head to that layer, grab the dark color, grab the streaky semi-transparent, and just paint that in. All right, now we just need to paint in our foliage and we will be done with our bouquet. We're going to turn on the outline, create a brand new layer right above it. And I like working from my furthest back elements and coming forward. So my furthest back elements are going to be the lightest color for this one, and that's going to be this blue color. I'm still using the streaky semi-transparent brush, and I'm going to choose some of these elements that are further back. So I've got a few leaves that are poking in the back right here. If you'd like to learn more about using the Bouquet Maker brush set and creating flat style floral artwork, I have a course called Flat Florals in Procreate, which I will leave a link to on screen and in the video description. So these ones are going to be behind these leaves. So I'm going to skip painting the full stem here, and I'm also going to make this one the same color. Create a brand new layer. I'm going to switch to this fourth color on the top row. Okay, create a brand new layer, grab the darkest green, and we will finish off the foliage. When you're putting a dark color behind a light color, just be aware that it's going to show through the light color a bit, so I'm usually extra careful around those edges. Okay, let's turn off the outline and see if we've got any gaps we need to fill in. It looks like I've got a few gaps up here, which I don't totally mind, but if you want to fix them, just remember which layers, which colors are on, and it's an easy fix. All right, once you have your bouquet complete, we're going to group everything together. Duplicate this group, turn off the original. I'm going to label this one original bouquet or a large bouquet. Because we made it so big, now you can use it on other items if you'd like, and you can use it at a really large size. So I like always keeping the larger one. Now on this duplicate, we're going to reduce the size because for the design that I had in mind, I'm going to use it at a smaller size right in the middle and have some holiday messaging. There we go. I'm going to change the background color. So tap on the background color, select this first color on the top row. It's a little bit of a cream color. And then I'm going to create a brand new layer up at the very top, change my color to this blue, the second one on the top row, and then change my brush to the liner brush. I'm going to increase the liner brush size to 10% and then turn on my drawing guide. So I've got a straight line to draw on, and I'm just going to add my lettering or my message. If you'd rather use typable text, please feel free to do that as well. Once again, everything mentioned in this tutorial is right in the video description. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please hit the like button, subscribe, and I will see you next time.